It finally happened. After years of royal silence, icy stares, and buried secrets, Buckingham Palace has just let something slip, and it's the kind of slip that shakes the whole kingdom. No fanfare, no royal trumpets, just a single door creaking open somewhere deep inside the palace, a door everyone thought would never unlock again. Behind it, a decision so massive, so cold, so irreversible. Insiders say the crown signed off without hesitation. Not a delay, not a warning, a final order. And that order? It changes everything for two children who've lived under the world spotlight since birth, Archie Harrison and Lilibet Diana, the kids of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. For years, the palace stayed frozen. The world kept guessing. Social media kept buzzing. Reporters kept spinning theories. And still nothing. Not a single syllable from behind those gates. That silence turned into pressure, then into suspicion, then into a storm. But now, the silence is gone, shattered like glass. In the shadows of the royal machine, the same machine built on centuries of unbreakable rules, Archie and Lilibet have been quietly erased from the royal framework. No titles, no succession, no ceremonial future. Not even a tiny mention in the polished paperwork that defines the monarchy's bloodline. And the strangest part? There was no announcement, no press release, no royal wave. Just cold, silent paperwork, filed, stamped, done. Because to them, this isn't about emotions. It's not about drama. It's about something older and sharper than any scandal. Protocol. Royal protocol. The kind that bends for no one. To understand why the crown acted now and why this decision cannot be reversed, you need to go back more than a century, to a time when another king decided exactly who could and could not be considered royal. It was 1917. The world was at war. Empires were falling apart. And inside Buckingham Palace, King George V signed the letters patent of 1917, a document so strict and uncompromising that even today's royals still live under its rules. That old decree asked one simple but unforgiving question: who is truly royal? Not who feels royal, not who the media loves, not who marries into the family, but who, by law, by blood, and by the church, can claim recognition from the crown. King George set 3 absolute requirements: a legitimate royal bloodline, a birth registered according to palace protocol, a christening recognized by the Church of England. Miss even one and you're out. No exceptions. 100 years later, those same rules now stand between Harry and Meghan's children and the legacy their father was born into. The first problem appeared when Archie was born in 2019. To the public, it looked like a fairy tale, Harry glowing with pride, Meghan radiant, and a beautiful new baby. But inside the palace, the paperwork told a different story. On Archie's birth certificate, Meghan's full name, Rachel Meghan Markle, was suddenly removed and replaced with Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. It wasn't a typo or a correction. It was a deliberate change. And that matters because birth certificates are sacred legal documents, not publicity tools. Meghan said she had nothing to do with the change and that the palace altered the document without her consent. Palace aides denied it completely, insisting she had approved it. The result was doubt, real, official doubt inside royal paperwork. And in the monarchy, doubt is dangerous. That single alteration was enough to shake the documentation that supports royal legitimacy. From that moment on, Archie's position in the system became uncertain. Then came Lilibet, born in June 2021. People expected the usual royal traditions: an official palace announcement, royal doctors, and the polished presentation that accompanies every royal birth. Instead, the announcement came from California, not London. There were no royal midwives, no palace courtiers, no balcony appearance, only a press release. To the royal establishment, this wasn't just informal, it was unimaginable. Royal births are meant to be national, historic events, witnessed, recorded, and stored in the royal archives. But this time, the crown had no involvement at all. No royal registrar, no oversight from the Church of England. For the first time, A royal baby was born without the crown's direct stamp of approval. In palace language, that silence spoke volumes. It wasn't rejection through words, it was rejection through absence. Still, Meghan celebrated her daughter's arrival with joy. Months later, she shared photos from Lilibet's baptism in California. The ceremony was intimate, emotional, warm, and filled with family. But to the Church of England, it wasn't official. The church never recognized the baptism. And for the monarchy, that alone cut the child's spiritual connection to the crown. Royal christenings are more than tradition. They are legal confirmation that a child is part of the monarchy's divine and constitutional lineage. Without that seal, the crown offered no acknowledgement. This meant there were now two official fractures: Archie's altered birth record and Lilibet's unrecognized baptism. Archie's altered birth record and Lilibet's unrecognized baptism, two small pieces of paper with consequences powerful enough to shape the Sussex family's future. But there was another layer to the unfolding crisis: Meghan's public image. From the moment she entered the royal spotlight, Meghan crafted a persona that blended Hollywood glamour with Windsor prestige. Every podcast, interview, and product launch carried a subtle hint of Duchess identity. Even her lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, shimmered with royal undertones, a duchess in California raising royal children. The appeal of it all depended entirely on those royal connections. Without them, the entire image loses its foundation. Because if Archie and Lilibet are not royal heirs, the story changes completely. Meghan stops being the modern royal reshaping tradition and becomes simply a former royal living a private life in Montecito. The family brand, its symbolism, its value, its aura, loses its crown. And according to insiders, Meghan understood this more clearly than anyone. Her public identity, her heritage, her narrative, all were tied to the titles her children were supposed to inherit. So when the palace began quietly closing doors, Harry panicked. He made late-night calls, private appeals, emotional pleas, anything he could try. Those close to him said he wasn't angry. He was scared. He told palace aides that stepping back from royal duties should not mean his children would be erased from history. They were the king's grandchildren, Harry argued. They carried Windsor blood, surely that must count for something. But the palace's response was as cold as the marble inside its halls. "This is not about emotion," one aide reportedly told him. "This is about order, lineage, and the future of the crown." No empathy, no flexibility, just finality. For Harry, it was devastating. The institution he once called home was now drawing a permanent line, with his children on the outside. He finally understood that the monarchy is not a family in the emotional sense. It is a machine. And machines do not feel. Then came the final blow. Deep within Buckingham Palace, the crown completed the paperwork that made everything official. Archie and Lilibet were removed from the royal registry. No titles, no recognition, no place in the line of succession. Their names would not appear in the royal ledgers that have recorded heirs for centuries. No ceremony, no announcement, just ink on paper and silence. With a single administrative act, the monarchy accomplished what no scandal, no interview, and no distance had ever achieved. It ended the Sussex royal line. The quiet cruelty of it was astonishing. This wasn't revenge, it was strategy. The palace never engaged in public battles with Harry and Meghan. It simply waited. While the couple spoke on Oprah, wrote books, filmed documentaries, the crown watched in silence. Because the palace doesn't play the media's game. It plays the long game, the generational one. And when the noise eventually faded, it moved. Precise. Silent. Final. By removing the children's titles, the monarchy did more than adjust a family tree. It stripped away the Sussex's most powerful narrative, their royal identity. Without that connection, there are no heirs in California, no royal lineage, no alternate dynasty. There is only a couple, their children, and a very expensive silence. Insiders say this was the crown's most calculated move in decades, a quiet correction, a reminder that the royal story will always remain under palace control. The monarchy has always protected itself. It alone decides who carries its legacy, not the media, not public opinion, and certainly not a prince who walked away. Years from now, when someone opens those massive leather-bound royal archives, they'll see 1,000 names. George, Charlotte, Louis, each written in perfect script. But 2 names will be missing: Archie and Lilibet. Their absence will speak louder than any scandal ever could. They'll grow up far from the cold grandeur of London, under California sunshine, running through gardens, laughing without bowing to anyone. They'll have love, family, and freedom. But they'll never stand on a royal balcony or hear trumpets announce their arrival. Their portraits won't hang in Buckingham Palace. Their names won't appear in the books that preserve royal bloodlines, not because of who they are, but because of what the crown has decided they are not. Legacy, the monarchy insists, isn't built on interviews, emotion, or fame. It's built on rules that bend for no one, not even a prince's children. And that is how the story ends. Not with shouting, not with spectacle, but with silence, the kind of silence that swallows everything. The kind that signals it's over. Because in the royal world, the loudest sound you will ever hear is when the palace says nothing at all. Even after silence settled over Buckingham Palace, a strange echo remained, a quiet ripple of disbelief among royal watchers, journalists, and ordinary people who had followed every turn of the Sussex story. Because deep down, everyone wondered the same thing: how did it come to this? How did a story that began with fairy tale bells and cheering crowds outside Windsor Castle end with 2 children quietly erased from royal records deep inside palace corridors? Some argued this wasn't cruelty, it was correction. A restoration. The monarchy, they said, had simply reset the line, trimming branches that no longer followed royal protocol. But to others, it felt like punishment disguised as paperwork. The same family that once posed smiling after Archie's birth now acted as though those smiles had never existed. The same palace that once wished Meghan and Harry joy at their wedding now refused to acknowledge their children's place in royal history. And you can almost imagine the atmosphere in Montecito when the news reached them. Meghan scrolling through headlines, reading reactions, trying to maintain her composure while the world analyzed Buckingham Palace's decision. Those close to her say she went quiet for days, because this time there was no way to spin it, clarify it, or correct it. The narrative was already sealed in royal ink. Harry, however, wasn't quiet. Friends say he paced around their California home, replaying memories of his childhood, his mother's warmth, his brother's loyalty from another lifetime, and that devastating moment of walking behind Diana's coffin. Learning too early that royal duty always outweighed human feeling. And now, as a father, he realized that nothing had changed. It didn't matter that he had fought for his family or begged for understanding. The monarchy has never traded in emotion. It trades in continuity. And that is the tragedy. Because behind all the royal pomp and calculated silence, there are still 2 small children who have no idea what any of this means. They'll grow up hearing fragments of the story, pieces of documentaries, whispered comments from classmates, old news clips that resurface online. One day, they'll type their own names into a search bar and find headlines asking, "Why aren't Archie and Lilibet royal?" And the answers they find won't come from their grandparents or from the palace. They'll come from the public, the same public that watched their parents' fairy tale unravel in real time. Yet, there's a strange irony in this ending. In trying to protect itself, the crown may have done the very thing it feared most. It gave Meghan and Harry a new narrative. A story not built on privilege, but on loss. Not on royalty, but on freedom. Because even without titles, these children now belong to something the palace cannot influence, a story written far beyond its gates. And maybe that's why, even in silence, the crown seems uneasy. Because it knows that one day, when Archie and Lilibet are old enough to speak for themselves, their words may echo louder than any royal decree ever could. And that is the one thing the palace cannot erase.